Hi, and welcome back to Free for All Friday on Focal Point, AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Number to call if you want to join the conversation is 888-589-8840. You know, and Rudy Giuliani was talking about the fact that essentially what the Obama administration has been doing is calling these soldiers that served with Bergdahl, calling them liars. In fact, here is an administration official that actually calls them psychopaths. Maybe you've heard about this. This was a tweet that was sent out by an Obama administration official by the name of Brandon Friedman, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So he's in the Obama administration, and he sent out a tweet raising questions about the soldiers that he was accusing of smearing Bergdahl. He said this in the tweet: "Here's the thing about Bergdahl and the jump to conclusion, Mats. What if his platoon was long on psychopaths and short on leadership?" So he raises the possibility that the people that were serving with Bergdahl, they were a bunch of psychopaths, and they're liars. You can't believe a word that they're saying. Now he's been forced to back off of that. When that tweet got immediate blowback, he had to change the bio on his Twitter feed to eliminate any reference to his position in the Obama administration. He's now issued an utter and abject apology for what he had done. But if you look at clip 7, here's another one of the soldiers that served with Bergdahl, and he describes what happened. And what this tells you, as you listen to this soldier talk about his experience, it tells you that the administration knew that that Bergdahl was a bad actor from day one. They knew it instantly. They knew it immediately. He had a track record, even when he was stateside, of leaving his post without advance warning, without any kind of notification, without permission. He just wander off. He'd done it on more than one occasion. They knew they were dealing here with a deserter. This was a huge PR problem for them. And so this soldier who served with Bergdahl describes the kind of heat that came down on them from his superiors.
But the sentiment that everybody knew was that he walked off the base in the middle of the night, left all of his gear there, and went just walked off the post. So we had all known that it was that he had deserted his post, and there was never anything about him getting captured or a POW until a little while later, whenever it came down from the chain of command that we needed to keep quiet about it, not say anything, and that we're going with the narrative that he was captured.
Wow. So they basically told you not to tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
Wow. And then we understand, according to one report, that attacks picked up right after he disappeared. They were remarkably accurate on the base. Did you actually experience the same thing?
Yes, sir. And that was one of the that was one of the telltale signs for me, is that whenever he went and walked off the base, only stuff that we know, that we train for, the spots that we know on vehicles, how our movements are and stuff like that, they were getting hit with very precisely, and the ambushes we use, the certain tactics that we use, the Taliban was picking up on those things, or the Haqqani network started using the same things as well. So they were very precise and very accurate, and you could tell it was from somebody on the inside that had that info.
And I think
so. In other words, the evidence is very strong. James Rosen alluded to that in his report. The evidence is very, very strong that he became a collaborator. He did convert to Islam. He did become a warrior for Islam, and he helped. He actively helped the Mujahideen. He calls himself a Mujahideen. He actively helped the Taliban to kill American soldiers. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this man is a traitor, and I do not hesitate to say that he deserves the death penalty for what he has done in Afghanistan. So interesting to see all of this kind of unfold, the narrative of the Obama administration completely falling apart. And here is Chuck Todd, clip 5, describing what this thing is all about. Remember, we talked about this over the course of the week, but remember that the military knew where Bergdahl was any number of occasions. They knew how many men were guarding him. They knew exactly where he was. The possibility of a military-style rescue was there on numerous occasions. There was a ransom arrangement. The Taliban was willing to take money for Bo Bergdahl. President Obama said, no, I don't want a military insertion to rescue him. I don't want a ransom. What I am looking for is a political excuse to start emptying out Guantanamo Bay. And here is Chuck Todd talking to Willie Geist on MSNBC, basically acknowledging that very thing. Clip 5, let's listen.
Help us out here. We've laid out all the facts. We've talked to a lot of people over the last several days. It feels like there's something missing at the center of this story. I think everyone here, Republican, Democrat, whoever you are, wants to believe that there's something grand here, that there's some other plan, but it doesn't appear there is. What are we missing?
I have to say, I think this is all about Gitmo. Everything about this has been about Gitmo, and finally we heard a Obama administration official yesterday, Marie Harf, one of the spokespeople of the State Department, for the first time said something on the record that I had been hearing on background and off the record is we had to get something for these guys because we were eventually going to have to release them anyway. And she said this on the record, and it goes back to, and I wanted to sort of second something that I heard Bill say, which is this is about Gitmo. The entire PR attempt on the weekend was about almost deflecting what they anticipated to be a sharp political fight about the decision to start releasing Gitmo detainees, starting with these 5. And in this case, they decided to, quote-unquote, get something for these 5. And I think they anticipated that fight, so they thought, well, let's do a rally around the flag moment. We know that there were certainly a bipartisan group of members of Congress who wanted Bergdahl released. But this is where I've been sort of awestruck over the last 6 days, which in many ways, the shiny metal object here has been Bergdahl, when really I think the entire motivation is starting the emptying out of Gitmo and starting this decision, which is going to be a very difficult process politically.
So Chuck Todd saying, look, what this was all about was emptying Gitmo. It wasn't about rescuing a soldier in uniform. Wasn't anything about that. That was just a bright, shiny object to kind of divert attention from what the real motivation here, the real agenda was, to empty Gitmo. And President Obama thought that they would be able to distract the American people, kind of minimize or reduce the impact of the nature of the men that he was releasing back to the battlefield by getting everybody wrapped up in this gung-ho political wave the flag, red, white, and blue rally. We've brought one of our own home. You know, I watched the Chuck Hagel film of Chuck Hagel talking to the troops overseas when he talked about how, well, this is a good day for us. It's a joyous day because we've got one of ours back. Not a ripple, no applause, no anything. I mean, the troops there, he was talking to troops. They knew that the whole thing was a sham. They knew that he's a deserter. In fact, they knew that he was a traitor, that he actually actively aided and abetted the enemies of the people of the United States. Now, we played the soundbite from the State Department spokesman, Stephanie Harf. Let's grab clip number 6, if we can, Rob. This is John Bolton, former ambassador to the UN, really sharp guy, great guy on foreign policy. And he, you know, and I've made the observation, look, about these spokesmen, this Jen Psaki and this Marie Harf. I mean, they sound to me like Valley Girls. I mean, I'm serious. They sound to me like they are in student council in high school. That's the level of maturity and sophistication I pick up in them. And this is what John Bolton says. Let's listen.
To be clear, I think children are wonderful. I just don't think they should be in charge of foreign policy.
Whoa, but Ambassador, that's strong stuff. That is very strong stuff.
Not as strong as I might say off camera. You know, the State Department spokespeople under John Kerry have been more partisan than any in my experience since my first involvement in government in the Reagan administration. And the clip, I think, that has gone around on YouTube is Marie Harf basically saying the soldiers who fought with Bergdahl in Afghanistan don't know what they're talking about when they say he left his post and deserted. And she said, actually, Bergdahl knows best what happened that night. It's humorous in a sense because it's so inane, but I think it's going to be increasingly serious because it's part of what seems to be an Obama White House campaign to impugn the soldiers who are trying to explain what happened when Bergdahl walked off the base. The prison guards at Guantanamo had let these guys walk out the front gate. They'd be court-martialed for incompetence, and yet that's what our president did. He gave away 5 killers. and essentially got the Bergdahl back in return. It's not a good trade.
So that is John Bolton. We've got children running our foreign policy, and he's exactly right about that. Well, let's go to the phones, 888-589-8840. Let's start with Brian in Mount Vernon, Illinois. Brian, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Yes, Brian, go right ahead. You're on with Brian Fisher.
I love your show, Brian.
Thank you, sir.
I listen to you every day.
Thank you very much.
I was listening earlier, and the station went out, and I forgot. I didn't get to hear what your thoughts on what he told Congress today about the Taliban blackmailing him. Have you heard about that?
No, I'm not sure. Tell me what you're talking about. What have you heard?
On Kevin McCullough today, he said that he told Congress, I guess this morning, that the Taliban was blackmailing him, that if he told anybody about this trade, they would kill Bergdahl.
Oh, yeah, that was the line that the administration was trying to spin. This is the line that they were trying to use, that their information was that if anybody talked about Bergdahl, if it became public knowledge that Bergdahl would be killed, that the Taliban had threatened his life. And it's just a part of this cavalcade of lies on the Benghazi deal, because there's no truth to it whatsoever. The Taliban was not threatening Bergdahl's life. It's a total fabrication. It's a total lie. They weren't threatening Bergdahl's life. He was their bargaining chip. He was their leverage. The Taliban was openly talking to the Associated Press back in 2012 and 2013 about the fact that they had Bergdahl and that they were using him as a bargaining chip with American authorities. So they weren't trying to conceal the fact that they had Bergdahl as a POW. They were telling the press about that. You know, the New York Times talked about it clear back on May 9th of 2012. The New York Times did a piece where Bergdahl's parents came out and talked about the fact that the Afghan insurgents were holding him captive. That's May 9, 2012. Associated Press, June 20th, 2013, talked openly about the fact that the Taliban was proposing a deal to free a U.S. soldier in exchange for their 5 operatives at Guantanamo Bay. So in other words, that was a lie that the Obama administration was telling about why they had to keep this secret from Congress, why they had to act with such haste. We had to save him because they were getting ready to kill him. We had to save him because people were about to find out about it and they were going to kill him. All of it, complete, colossal, total, absolute lies. Focal Point AFR Talk.
It's time to start planning to be at this year's Values Voter Summit, September the 26th through the 28th, where you can stand alongside thousands of like-minded Americans who want to see our country return to the founding principles of faith, family, and freedom. Invited speakers include Mike Huckabee, Glenn Beck, Rick Santorum, Dr. Ben Carson, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Star Parker, Governors Rick Perry, Bobby Jindal, and Sam Brownback, Senators Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Mike Lee, Representatives Paul Ryan, and many more. Today's hottest topics will be discussed: religious liberty, protection of life and marriage, national security,